Hola, mis shields and demons. This is Nurse Hatchet. You are listening to the Wolf Pack.
You're listening to Full Spectrum Horror with the horror sex symbol Christopher Highland and the King of Swag Punk William Pattison.
Wow, that's odd.
Guess who?
That's an intro.
Yes, it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present The Creature. If you're blue and you don't know where to go to, why don't you go where fashion sits? Different types who wear a day coat, pants with stripes, or cutaway coat, perfect fits. Dressed up like $1 million trooper, trying mighty hard to look like Gary Cooper. Oh, Come, let's mix where Rockefellers walk with sticks or umbrellas in their midst.
And the winner of the Igor, or is that Igor, lookalike contest is William Pattison. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another special episode of Full Spectrum Horror. I am your host, Victor Frankenstein, and with me, as always, is, let's see, is he Igor or Polidori?
Friend, smoke good, drink good, sippy sippy.
Oh, you forgot to say fire bad.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you don't remember. You don't remember.
Cheers, everybody. And that's not Gene Wilder that's on there. That's the horror sex symbol, Mr. Christopher Highland.
Hello, everybody.
So, anyways, yeah, people are not going to know how much trouble we've had trying to get this show going this month. It's been freaky as hell. It's like, man, it was like something just wanted to fucking stop us this time.
Yeah, so by the time they hear this episode, a lot of our news will be old.
Yeah, I'm seriously, because I don't know when I'm going to be able to edit this because my damn computer's down and I'm using my sister's computer right now, and it has absolutely no sound editing equipment, and it has no visual editing equipment, and I'm not going to put any on here because of the fact that it cost me so much to get the ones that I had for my computer. Also, if people notice a little bit of better sound quality for me, I am using a brand new cell phone microphone that is specifically made for podcasting.
Oh, a new version of one of those drive-through headsets.
Yeah. Well, this thing, it's a speaker. Well, it's a microphone, and it hooks in to the earphone connector, and it's supposed to be really good quality here. So I'm trying it out, and I know after you hear the show, Mr. Highland, you're going to want one for your cell phone.
Oh, no, that's okay. I don't really go in with all this new stuff.
Yeah, the only bad thing about this thing is that it hooks into the bottom of my phone. So in order to use it, I have to use my phone upside down.
Oh, but that doesn't mean that you're upside down.
Nope. It's just a little bit weird. I don't know why. Well, most people, their cell phones have the damned plug-in on the top. Mine, for some reason, they put on the bottom. I don't understand it. They have to be neat with me.
I'm imagining you being upside down right now doing the show. I'm hearing that song and that old song in my head right now. He flies through the air, the greatest of ease, a daring young man on the flying trapeze.
Nope. Actually, what I did is I sat my cell phone on my shaving kit, and I'm laying on my bed, and I have the microphone pointing at me. So it's a little bit more comfortable. Yeah, whew, boy. Yeah, I mean, people just really don't know how hard it has been. I mean, the restaurant went and changed my hours yet again. They want me to do late night hours, so I'm in the working on the cleaning crew. And last night I didn't get out of there until 1:45 in the morning. Yeah, and I had to get up at 6 in the morning to go to the county for my other job. Oh, and here's something for people who sit there and keep telling me that Lyft is such a wonderful service.
Yeah, until they. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Anyways, last night I was going to try Lyft for the first time. I got the app. I did everything. I programmed everything. I went for my first Lyft calling them. The only Lyft driver that they had was supposedly 11 minutes away. Well, the app kept saying 11 minutes for 35 minutes, and I finally said, screw this, canceled, because it was my first Lyft appointment. They didn't fine me for it. But then I called Uber, and guess what, Mr. Highland? Guess how much time it took them?
Less than 11 minutes.
4 minutes.
Of course.
4 minutes to pick me up. Also, the Lyft app did not even give me the amount of money that they were asking for the ride. So I'm forgetting Lyft. I don't like that. At least Uber gives me two possibilities. The pool one, which is a lot cheaper, and the regular Uber price. So, I'm sticking to Uber. I mean, as much as people bitch about them and shit, they've been pretty damn good with me. So, anyways.
Okay. Well, that's all fine and good unless some of the drivers get it into their heads that they want to rob or assault you. I mean, that has happened in Chicago.
Yeah, well, that's Gotham.
Which is why I prefer cabs, because that doesn't happen with cab drivers.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't happen with cab. Well, with cab drivers, it's usually the opposite. I still remember that story about that woman who went and attacked the cab driver and sexually assaulted him and kept him in the cab for 3 hours.
Oh, I think I remember that.
Yeah, that was a good one. But no. Anyways, yeah.
Some people might consider that a date.
Yeah, well, 3 hours with a woman with a knife at your throat, expecting you to perform is not my idea of a party.
Well, people who are into S&M, well, I don't know. They might get off on that. I don't know. I don't know.
Nope. So, Mr. Highland, are you excited? Are you going to go see it?
I think I might wait for the DVD.
Okay. I've been
How
trying
long-
to
how long
go,
is-
but
How long is that movie?
2.5 hours.
Oh, God. I'm too old for this. Can't hold my bladder for that long.
I last through The Hobbit, and that was 3.5 hours.
Ah, screw that.
But Mr. Highland, it's your favorite thing in the entire world, creepy clowns.
No, not really.
Yeah, I know. Alrighty, so time for horror news, because
Oh.
you know people that Mr. Highland has spent the entire month
Yes, I
going
really have.
all over the internet looking
Oh, yeah.
for that strange, that weird, that one-of-a-kind horror news.
Yes, I certainly have, and it'll show this episode because I have 6 items of news.
Wow.
And I think that just might be a record if I remember.
Wow, you must be really reading up my newsletter, huh? No.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, let's get to the horror news.
Okay, first up, if you may or may not know about this, well, you will now. First up is a obscure movie that I have not heard of until a few weeks ago, called Demon Wind from 1990. If you don't want to wait for this movie, it's on YouTube, but if you want to wait for it for the cleaned up version, this will be released on Blu-ray. Not sure on DVD, but look for the Blu-ray on October 24th. It said that this is a restoration from the original 35mm camera negative.
Nice.
And let's see, what is this about? It involves the investigation of a mysterious death, and these people go to this old farm. It's not really much more to say about it than that, but with some of these movies, it's best to go in blind. I mean, I do that a lot with some movies. Okay, let's see. Next up, and again, this movie will be out on Blu-ray and DVD by the time this episode is up. And I'm really glad about this one. Psychos in Love. This is a movie from 1987. It's a horror comedy.
Cool. Never actually heard of that one, though.
I did until might have been sometime this year, maybe last year or so. Well, I think the title says it all, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
And this is a Blu-ray and DVD combo set. And this will be released September 26th. And I know you're going to want that one. Because I definitely want to see this one.
Oh,
okay. Next up, another obscure movie, but not a obscure director. Lucio Fulci's The Devil's Honey. And of course, this will also be released on September 26th. This is a rare film of his. From the picture and the description, it looks to be a erotic thriller.
Yeah, most of his stuff looks like it's going to be an erotic thriller.
So again, look for this on September 26th. And next, and of course, I'm sure you're wondering, oh, when's he going to talk about more audiobooks because he loves that stuff? Well, here I am going to do that just now. The classic short story collection by Dennis Etchison, The Dark Country, is going to be on audio CD on October 24th. So look for that then. And this book it's just been released today, the 19th. Now, this is a reference book. Now, anybody who, I'm not sure if this is a well-known fact of me, I'm not too thrilled on reference books. I mean, it tends to be what they're about specifically, but usually regarding reference books in the horror genre, they tend to be mostly about movies and just that. But this one, it's specifically about horror fiction. And if you can't guess, the title of this is called Paperbacks from Hell. And it's about horror fiction, specifically mostly obscure horror fiction from the 70s and 80s. And the author is Grady Hendrix. And I can't remember the guy's name, but he has a horror blog called Too Much Horror Fiction, and he helps out with the book as well. He at least gives an afterword in the book. So if you want to pick this up, and if you're really serious about not just horror fiction, but obscure horror fiction, if you really want to take this stuff as seriously as you should, go pick this up. Because I definitely want to. This is a reference book that I definitely want. I think this is going to be my first. I'm gonna get. I don't know about you, but I'll look for it. And last, but certainly not the least, a Bentley Little is famous novel The Store has just recently been put out as an audiobook, but only on Audible. This was released August 10th. So look for that if you're interested.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, you would be amazed. That is an incredible novel. I mean, honestly, I think it's even better than Clive Barker's The Thief of Always.
Oh, okay.
When it comes. So, yeah, incredible novel.
Yeah, I plan on getting it next month.
Cool.
Have you heard about the reference book Paperbacks from Hell?
No, never heard of them.
Oh, okay. You might recognize some of the titles that they mention in the review on Amazon.
Cool. Cool deal.
Okay, that's all my news.
Well, me, I've got a couple of things. First off, for those of you who are into classic horror, and I do mean classic, I mean the old Universal horror, Target has made a deal with Universal Studios, and they have come out for Halloween with Universal Monster themed items this year. They've got costumes, they've got little scream figures, like Frankenstein, the Gill Man and that. They've got this one incredible bust that they have that is Boris Karloff as the Mummy, and it's got glowing blue eyes. Incredible. And then they've also got a 2-set of these little dinoramas that are lighted dinoramas, and they're scenes from Bride of Frankenstein. And one of them's the opening scene where the Frankenstein monster is going towards the burning windmill. And the other one is Frankenstein's monster with the Bride of Frankenstein, and it's the scene where he takes her hand, just before she rejects him. And I mean, these things look pretty damn good, and the prices aren't too bad. I mean, the bust of the Boris Karloff mummy bust is only $25, and the 2 dinorama scenes are only $25. They've got like scare masks, all kinds of different stuff. So, go to your Target store, see, or go on to Target.com and you can check out the stuff there as well. But, that is pretty cool. I mean, I don't know why all of a sudden, that they're doing Universal Horror Monsters. I mean, I remember last year Walgreens did Nightmare Before Christmas for their Halloween theme. Alrighty, and since it's coming on Halloween season, I know people once in a while like to go and listen to spooky stories. And I happen to find, thanks to my dear friend Mr. Vince Van Dahl, a fantastic site where you can hear audio spooky tales. And it's hosted by this lady in a mask called Spooky Boo. And yes, it sounds very kiddie-like. It's called Spooky Boo's Scary Story Time. But some of these stories are not kiddie stories, so they've got some adult stories in there as well, and they got all kinds of different stuff on the site. It's very cool. So definitely check it out. And I know Mr. Highland and I are going to support Spooky Boo's Scary Story Time here on Full Spectrum Horror. I'll try to get her advertisement up for us so that we can play it on the show, because it's a cool little site. Alrighty, so now it is time for my monthly jaunt over to Scream Factory. And they have got one hell of a good special here. I'm telling you, Mr. Highland, you'll want one of these. Though I doubt either one of us can actually afford it right now. But they've got a special limited edition, limited to 2,000 copies of the original Silent Night, Deadly Night. And this special edition comes with an exclusive limited edition NECA action figure of the Santa Claus killer from it, and an exclusive limited edition rolled poster featuring the new cover art that Scream Factory had done for this special edition Blu-ray. Now, let's see. Here's some of the specials on this. Oh, wait a second. Here's the synopses for this film. What we have here is an utterly sleazy, guilty pleasure that it aired in my household at least once every December. For me, it's right up there with the Grinch Who Stole Christmas cartoon. Steve Barton, Dread Central. Community leaders tried to stop the release. The PTA fought to ban it. Now, one of the most controversial slasher films of all time is back in a new high-definition release. This new edition of the horror holiday favorite has been restored from the original vaulted film negative. Silent Night, Deadly Night is the heartwarming story of little Billy Chapman, who was traumatized by his parents' Christmas Eve murder, then brutalized by sadistic orphanage nuns. But when grown-up Billy is to dress as Jolly Saint Nick, he goes on a Yuletide rampage to punish the naughty. Santa Claus is coming to town, and this time he's got an axe. Robert Brian Wilson and Scream Queen Leanna Quigley star in this jaw-dropping horror classic that a nation of angry mothers still can't stop. The 8-inch clothed action figure by NECA is exclusive to sell. This Billy Chapman is dressed in a fabric Santa suit with hat and featuring the authorized likeness of Robert Brian Wilson. The figure is fully posable and comes with an axe accessory in window box packaging. Okay, The exclusive limited edition contains Silent Night, Deadly Night Collector's Edition 2-disc Blu-ray with slipcover. Exclusive 8-inch Billy Killer Santa doll. An exclusive limited edition 18 by 24 rolled poster of the newly designed art from artist Joel Robinson. This will ship rolled in a poster tube. Bonus features original theatrical and unrated versions of the film taken from a new 4K scan of the camera negative. New sleigh bells ringing, the story of Silent Night, Deadly Night, featuring interviews with writer Michael Hickley, co-executive producers Scott J. Schneid and Dennis Whitehead, editor and second unit director Michael Spence, composer Peter Botkin, and actor Robert Brian Wilson. New, oh dear, an interview with Leanna Quigley. New, Christmas in July, Silent Night, Deadly Night locations, and then and now. New audio commentary with actor Robert Brian Wilson and co-executive producer Scott J. Schneid. Original theatrical trailer, original TV spots and radio spot, audio commentary by William Hickley, Peter Boykin, Scott J. Schneid, and Michael Spence. Audio interview with director Charles E. Sellier Jr. Santa's Stocking Outrage, poster and still gallery. And you get all this. And here it is. Drum roll, people! Drum roll! You get this for $64.93. What do you say, Mr. Highland? You gonna go out and grab that up?
No. Oh, I need to get that Paperbacks from Hell.
So you're not gonna have your little NECA Santa figure, huh?
No, I'm still upset that the main character and that was miscast. They should have actually cast someone who looked like Santa, not some young thin guy. If they did that back then, who do you think they should have cast in that?
No. That's not the way the story goes, though. That's supposed to be a fat guy.
Yeah, well, if the killer actually looked like Santa, then I can understand all the protesting and ticketing and all that. But since they didn't, they had no jurisdiction.
Okay. Now I'm starting to sound like you. God. I don't know. I just don't know. So anyways, yeah. Alrighty, Mr. Highland, I gather you've got a bunch of reviews.
No, just two. And they're just rather lackluster.
Uh-huh.
But I didn't know these movies were going to be just average before I saw them. Oh, I thought you were going to ask me about that audiobook I just finished.
Oh, okay. Well, tell us about that audiobook that you just finished.
I don't know if you ever read this book, Flowers in the Attic.
Yes, I did, and I saw the
You
movie.
did? Oh, what did you think of both?
That story is not my cup of tea. Let's just put it that way.
Same here. Same here.
Yeah, it was not my cup of tea, and the movie just, I don't know.
I can imagine another writer handling the ending differently. It would have been a more explosive denouement.
Oh, I wasn't so worried about the ending. I was more concerned about the fact that they were trying to kill those kids. That's what really got me. Uh-oh, spoiler.
Yeah, well.
So actually, after all these years, everyone knows what Flowers in the Attic was about.
Yeah, I did not like that book. That was definitely a true horror book.
Yeah, I'm surprised though that Scream Factory hasn't done an exclusive Flowers in the Attic one with a complete doll set of all the kids, and of course the butler and stuff. I mean, I know Mr. Highland would love that, wouldn't you?
No.
Oh yeah, I forgot. You're already complaining about the Santa doll. So yeah, we don't want inbred kids, inbred kid dolls. Oh, you. Anyway, so what did you have to say on Flowers in the Attic?
No, sir, I don't like it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, well, you know that there's an entire series.
Yeah, I know. It's just not something I'd want to check out.
Yeah, I was actually surprised that they made a movie of that when, what did they honestly think they were going to have a franchise from that? Yeah, we want Flowers in the Attic 2. Yeah, right. Let's see these wacko people trying to kill inbred kids, another batch of inbred kids. God. That would have been about as bad as all them damned Children of the Corn movies.
How many of those have they made? Like 30?
No, not that many. There's been 12.
Seems like they made more.
I know.
It's like they make one every year. TV movie of the week, like Sharknado.
Yeah, well, they kind of stopped after they did the new mini series and the remake.
I'll bet they did prequels too, huh?
Didn't see any prequels.
Oh, that's surprising.
Nope.
with that many films in a franchise, you'd think they'd do at least one.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, we lucked out. We didn't have like Flowers in the Attic number 12. The final addict. God.
Yeah, I just imagine them doing prequels of that.
Yeah.
Just having a TV series or a mini series about that.
Mm. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention on the spooky boo thing.
What?
Unfortunately, Mr. Highland, they don't have scary Easter Bunny killers. And I know that really blows, makes you very unhappy because I know you love scary Easter Bunny killers.
No.
Like the Bunny Man Massacre and that. Yeah. Oh well. They do have scary clowns though. So Mr. Highland will be happy about that. Alrighty. So anyways, so Flowers in the Attic, your rating on Flowers in the Attic.
Well, for pure horror, it's definitely a 5, but enjoyment factor, 0.5.
Okay. That works. I mean, you can do it. I mean, if you
want to torture someone, this is definitely something that you'd want them to read.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for me, I tortured myself with Stephen King. Oh my God. That's something that I can mention is the fact that I'm going over the Dark Tower series again, but this time I'm listening to the audiobooks, and I'm getting a lot of the detail now that I'm listening to the audiobook over what when I was reading it, because reading Stephen King for me is torturous as hell.
Well, speaking of which, I'm surprised writing classes don't focus on specific writers and the drugs that they took in order to write what they wrote.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could always do some lectures there, Mr. Highland. Sit there and
like, okay, Stephen King took this, and this. This writer took all that.
Yeah, exactly.
And someone could do a project on that, and someone could mention what Edgar Allan Poe took.
Oh yeah, and you can imagine what Lovecraft took, because I mean, shoot, he was spacey. I kind of wonder. What's his name? Cronenberg.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder what Cronenberg's drug of choice was for some of the shit that he's written.
Not quite sure.
Yeah, I know. See, that's one reason why, Jen and Sylvia Soska are gonna fail doing Rabid, is because they're not taking enough drugs when they're doing the film.
That's another reference book that, well, it might not be just a horror book, but a reference book, but also it could also be a double as a medical reference book with all the drugs that writers and maybe even directors took to make their famous works.
Yeah,
I
probably.
am shocked no one has done that yet.
Well, that's the thing, Jen and Sylvia. You know, being drunk doesn't do it. You have to do mind altering stuff to actually get into it. Me, I don't have to because I studied psychiatry and psychology in school, so I know aberrant behavior. So, but yeah, I don't think having a degree in drunken partying actually makes you a better body horror person. Anyways, so yeah, I can imagine, because I mean, right now on the Dark Tower, I finished The Wolves of Kala, and I'm now on Savannah's Song, or Song of Savannah, and it takes an interesting person to put themselves into their own book. I mean, it's to the point where Stephen King is now part of the Dark Tower. That's freaky as shit. So, anyways. Alrighty, any more reviews there, Mr. Highland?
No, none. No.
That was it?
Yeah.
Holy moly. Alrighty, I guess it's my turn, huh?
Wait. I didn't review any movies.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, these will be short, I promise, because, well, they weren't very good. Okay, first up is a movie I never saw before. It's by William Friedkin. It's called The Guardian. Have you seen this movie?
Yeah, I did, and I read the book.
Oh, how does the book compare to the movie?
Okay. With the book, you get more into the mythology and stuff. But freaking, as a movie that he did after doing The Exorcist, I wasn't as thrilled.
Okay. Well, this is a short prologue before the main story starts about this lady who's a nanny. She's taking care of this family's children, and they're going off for the evening, and they come back because they forgot something, and then they check on the kids, and their baby has disappeared, and along with the woman, along with the nanny. And then fast forward a few months later, there's this guy, and he has to move to California Hills to for his job, take his wife with him, and they move to this house, and she's also about to have a son, and they're looking for a nanny, and they're interviewing a bunch of people, and then they decide on one person, and the person they decide on has this accident, and they end up by default going with their second choice, and it's there's this mysterious woman who shows up, and she becomes the nanny, and all these paranormal things start to happen. There's this very strange tree in the woods behind near their house, and she uses it to attack some people who try to attack her, and what else happens? There are wolves that are also involved. They chase the guy who fixes up their house because he follows her, and he sees what she really is, and he runs back to his house and calls the people that their house he fixed up, and the wolves follow him, and the lady follows him, and he ends up getting killed and disappearing, and then finally the couple realize, after doing some detective work, finally realize what kind of person she is. And then towards the end, they realize, oh, she's not human. She's some kind of thing, and
yeah, I think they call it an elemental.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. And the ending is it's good enough. The husband goes out to this tree, and he takes a chainsaw with him and carves it up, and as he's cutting off pieces of it, the pieces of the woman come off as well. And I thought, well, that makes perfect sense that she's part of the tree, and then she's coming off piece by piece. So as the tree gets taken apart, she gets destroyed, and it's a good enough denouement. So, what rating do I give this? I would say 2.5 out of 5.
Okay.
Okay. Next movie is called, I don't know if you've ever heard of this one. It's called Drive-In Massacre. You know that one?
Think so. There's quite a few with the drive-in in that. So I've heard of probably about 100 films with a similar title.
Well, this was remastered and put on either Blu-ray and or DVD. I think it was earlier this year. And, well, this is a movie from 1976. Does that help?
Nope.
Buck Flower was involved. Does that help?
Nope.
Okay, well, basically, there's really not much to the story other than it's about a mysterious killer who is killing people with a sword, specifically couples, at this drive-in in California. and there's enough of a cheese factor to it, such as when there's a stakeout and one of the detectives is trying to catch the killer, and one of them is dressed in drag. And then later on, Buck Flower shows up because he co-wrote the story, and so naturally he's in it, and you think, oh, it's him doing the killings, and then right after that, there's at least a few more deaths at the drive-in. So you think, oh, how was it? And well, if you haven't seen it, I'm not going to spoil it, but it's not that big of a surprise. So if you like cheesy movies, you should see this. It's not that long. About 73 minutes. And
Okay.
it's on
Yeah,
YouTube. It's on YouTube, so it's not that hard to find.
Yeah, typical amount of time for a cheesy movie. They're usually about 90 minutes.
I'm impressed the way they cleaned this up. It has a very sharp picture quality to it.
Cool.
Even though they managed to keep just enough of the grindhouse graininess to it. So it all balances out.
Nice.
As for the rating, I would give this a 3 out of 5.
Okay, so average.
Yes.
Cool deal.
Okay, that's all I got.
Alrighty, well, I have got a newer film that I watched on Amazon Video. I've been waiting to see this one, because, they've been talking about it heavily. I've been seeing it a lot on my newsletter, the Wolfpack Daily. Remember that, people. We've got our own newsletter, the Wolfpack Daily, so check it out on YouTube. Check it out, and you get a lot of good horror news. Well, yeah, there was a lot of reviews on this film that I'm going to review right now. It comes at night. It's a horror film that you didn't know what you were going to expect, and what you end up with is less than what you really expected. Because here I'm sitting there thinking, oh yeah, we've got this big renaissance of horror and stuff, and this is a totally different type of film. I thought it was going to be a monster in the forest type film, but it wasn't. This one is a pure psychological horror. It tells the story of this family that is caught in some sort of a plague. You don't hear much about the plague. You do get an idea of what the plague victims look like, because the film opens on this family basically taking the wife's grandfather, or her father, and taking him out and burning him alive because he's dying from this plague. And he's got like sores on him and stuff. Yeah, I mean, they literally take him out, pour gasoline on him, and burn him. And that's the big excitement of the film. Literally. The rest of the film, well, the majority of the film takes place in the house. They've got this house, and they've got the windows bar, wood all over the windows and stuff and that. And when they go outside, they wear gas masks and that. Because supposedly this plague's happened, and they're out in the boonies and that and trying to survive. They're low on food and stuff. They got plenty of water. They found a way to cleanse the water, so they've got that. And it's this husband, his wife, and the teenage son and the teenage son's dog. And the son, the thing is that he has nightmares in the middle of the night, and that is what comes in the night. The terror comes in the night, in the dark, when he's sleeping. He has these horrible dreams, and they're really freaky ass dreams. Anyways, what ends up happening is this guy who's desperate. He's trying to help his family because they have no water, or they have provisions and stuff, but they don't have any water. He goes and he breaks into the house, and this family finds him. They knock him out. They tie him to a tree, and get him to tell about his family. The father goes and drives with the guy back to pick up his wife, his baby boy, and they have some goats and stuff, and they have food stores. So what ends up happening is there's this kind of domestic order that goes on here, where this family, to survive, has got a very structured life in this house. And they bring in the young couple and that, and they start getting in on it. But things start falling apart. The kid's dog, he gets loose and chases something into the forest, and later on he comes back and he's dying of the plague, so they have to burn the dog, and the dog is the kid's best friend, and so he's having trouble. The young couple, the son's got a thing for the guy's wife because she's the only young female around, so he's having those kind of ideas, and he's watching her. And anyways, what ends up happening is that the baby gets sick. And it happens during this weird situation where the kid goes down. He's had a nightmare, and he finds the kid asleep in the living room on the floor. And there's this room. It's the only room that they can get out of the house through. It's a red door, and it goes into this other room that goes outside. Well, he goes down there and he finds that the door's opened. And his father suspects that the little kid was sleepwalking and opened the door. And that the kid might have been, infected. Well, it turns out that the kid was. His family tries to get away from him because, they know that the father's going to kill the baby, to protect the household. So it ends up there's a fight, and the father, the father of the little baby, he gets shot, and he dies. The other father, he actually shoots the baby while it's in its mother's arms, and she's sitting there and she's holding the baby and she's crying and screaming, and he shoots her, and they burn the bodies. Well, what ends up happening is it turns out that the teenage son, has contracted the disease, and he ends up dying. And they burn him. And the way the film ends is that the mother and father are stuck in the house by themselves, looking at each other, and all they have is each other now. And this film, oh my God, Cabin Fever, you have no idea how well this filmmaker did that, because these people's entire world is pretty much in this damned house. It's a big house. It has a lot of room, but you get this feeling like you can't breathe watching this film. It really is. It's constricting. And the kids' nightmares are just, oh God, really scary as hell. So all the scares in this film are psychological scares. They're nightmares. They're illusions. You don't hear anything about, there's no zombies in this film. There's no hate plague or any of that. It's just these people trapped and watching themselves die, pretty much, sitting there in this house waiting pretty much to die. So, it's not what you expect. You expect one type of film, and you end up with another. And for me, it's hard, because when I went to watch it, I wanted a monster flick, and here I have this, and I reveled at how brilliant this filmmaker was, because you can imagine he had very little money to make this film, but he did this incredible piece, but yet it's very boring. So, it's hard for me to give it a 3.5, but that's what I have to give it. In regards to actual creativity out of nothing, I'd have to give it a 5, because I've seen people doing incredible special effects, having people puking up everything, growing dicks out of their mouths and shit in the last year. And this film, it has none of that stuff, but it's terrifying. And when I watched it, I made the mistake of watching it before I went to bed. And it disturbed me. I had trouble sleeping. But anyways, the director of this film is Trey Edward Schultz. And he also wrote the screenplay. So this is a filmmaker you want to keep an eye on, because this is the type of filmmaker we need in horror. This is the type that is going to bring us eventually one of those awards. Seriously, I mean, horror films are gonna get the respect that they deserve. And it's from filmmakers like this guy. Alrighty, so anyways, that is my review. I mean, I only did one this time. So now, Mr. Highland, it is time for our break.
Good. And I'm sure our listeners are thrilled about that as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I need to get a little something to drink and that. So yeah, get something to drink. We're gonna put on some music, put on some freaky commercial, and be right back.
To show identification, I got no paper show you what I am. You'll have to take me just the way that you find me. What's gone is gone, and I do not give a damn. Empty stomach, empty head, I got empty heart and empty bed. I don't remember. I some sleep. I'm so nervous in the night, and I don't know how to stop. 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 I gotta pick up the phone. I will call any number. I will talk to anyone. I know I've gone too far, much too far I've gone this time. Don't wanna think what I've done, 'cause I don't know how to stop. I don't know how to stop. There are always little silences waiting behind the chair. They come out when the coast is clear. They eat anything that moves. Are those tricky at the knees? Lights go out, stars come down like a swarm of bees. No self-control. No self-control. No self-control. No self-control. No self-control. No self-control. You know I hate to hurt you, I hate to see your pain, but I don't know how to stop. I don't know how to stop. Street after street, night after night, I walk on through the rain. I walk on through the rain. I don't know how to stop. I don't know how to stop. No, I don't know how to stop. I don't know how to stop. Hey, I don't know how to stop. I don't know how to stop.
Hello, I'm Charles Gaines. When I found out that XO Communications had customer service agents available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, well, naturally, I felt we should too.
Thank you for calling Megatelco. This is Balcazar, Prince of Misery and Apprentice to Evil. May I help you?
It's all about serving you better.
They can't. We do. Voice, data, and web for business. XO, not just talk.
Hello, my she devils and demons. This is Nurse Hatchet, she-wolf of the Wolf Pack.
Alrighty, so that was our, well, not so much mid-show, but, you know, whatever, our break period.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes it's the 2/3 of the way through break. Oh my God. So, anyways, Mr. Highland, we have got ourselves a rare treat tonight for our horror discussion, huh?
Yes. This is not the usual type of movie that we discuss. Usually, we discuss some rather horrific and horror-licious type of movies, but this is rather
Epic.
classy. Yes, not just epic, but classy.
Yeah, very much so.
I mean, horror movies tend not to, well, especially these days, tend not to be like that, but this one's different. And of
Very
course,
much so.
and of course, I'm talking about Frankenstein, the true story. And this is a movie that, again, I was not aware existed until about a few months ago.
Yeah, actually, the thing is that it's not a movie. It is a mini-series.
Oh.
It's a 2-part mini-series.
Yeah.
So this thing is about 4 hours long, people.
3.
Oh, you probably got the cut version.
Cut? What are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, I've got the original version, and it's 3 hours and 45 minutes. Believe it or not.
I'm not aware of any version of that.
Oh yeah.
Where does it say that? Let me.
It says right on the back of my DVD that I got. Yeah, it's the long version. I mean, the thing is that a lot of these miniseries, it's like Salem's Lot. You have the full miniseries, and then you have the cut version.
Oh, let's see. There's American version, and then there's the UK version. Let me see if it's different.
Okay. Well, anyways, the version that I've got is 3 hours and 45 minutes, and it's the complete film the complete miniseries that I saw all those years ago. Because I actually saw it when it first came out.
Oh.
And amusingly enough, Mr. Highland, this was the first horror miniseries.
Oh.
It really was. It came out around the same time as Rich Man, Poor Man, Roots, and those type of films, or those type of miniseries. It was the start of the big miniseries thing that's continued up till today. But these were groundbreaking. I mean, it was during. I think it was a few years after this that they did Shogun, and you know how long Shogun was. That was about 16 parts.
I don't know. I haven't seen that yet. I listened to the audiobook of the novel.
Yeah,
and that's long too.
Oh yeah. Well, during this period of the miniseries thing, they were usually just 2 parts, and they were like around 4 hours. You had like Rich Man, Poor Man Book 2. Roots was extremely long.
Yeah.
Though. That one was extremely long, but they were usually based on books, and this was unique in that they let a lot of stuff get through on this that I thought, oh my God, I would have never seen, because I had seen a lot of this stuff in the Hammer films, and this film had kind of a Hammer feel to it, but it was a longer film. Wouldn't you say that somewhat, Mr. Highland?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking that's what I felt when I saw this one.
Yeah, very much so. Now, the thing is that the title, the Frankenstein, the True Story, is a little bit off because anyone who's actually read Frankenstein knows that, it's nothing like this. But this was very much an interesting take on Frankenstein.
Yeah, I listened to this joint biography of Mary Shelley and her mother, and apparently the novel Frankenstein was based on a true story.
Oh, yeah. There was a story of, well, the thing is that there was a movement that was very popular during the time that Mary Shelley was socializing, the Lazarus movement. And these were ones who wanted to learn how to bring people back to life. And Mary Shelley heard a story about a scientist who had rented a German castle, Castle Frankenstein. And supposedly something had happened to him. And there's a thing about possibly he brought something to life. But that was the inspiration because that was just before the summer that she stayed at Byron's house with Percy and Byron's doctor, Dr. Polidori, who Dr. Polidori is known for the novel The Vampire, which people think inspired Bram Stoker for Dracula. But Polidori, who Lord Byron would call him Polydully. He based the vampire in his novel on Lord Byron, and he was not happy about it. So yeah, the writers on this film actually, they knew a lot about the history of Mary Shelley and her inspirations and Polidori and all that, so they incorporated some of that into this. And actually, this film was the first time that they actually had a production of Frankenstein where they actually had the honest-to-goodness ending of the story.
Yeah, they tend not to do that with these Frankenstein movies. I mean, especially they didn't do it with the one from the 30s. It's a shame that they didn't.
Yeah. But, it's very interesting. And, Leonard Whiting, the guy that plays Victor Frankenstein,
Mm-hmm.
You know what he's famous for, right?
I can't remember.
He was Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, the 60s
The Olivia
movie?
Hussey one.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, what is absolutely amazing is that the screenwriters were absolutely pissed off about the production. They absolutely hated the production.
Oh. Why is
Did you
that?
know that?
No,
Yeah,
no. Why is that?
Yeah, this is one of the little trivia pieces that they had about it. Yeah, the actual screenwriters published their original version of the screenplay for this film because they were unhappy with the way it had turned out. The published script differs from the final film in a number of ways. They were also unhappy with the casting of the film.
Oh, which parts?
They requested that John Voight be offered the part of Victor Frankenstein.
Oh.
And they wanted John Borman to be the director.
Oh.
But of course, the production company hired, whoever they wanted. Yeah, so they were very unhappy. Also, the gentleman who, of course, played Polidori, Mr. James Mason, went on to actually be cast in the next horror miniseries that came out, and Mr. Highland knows exactly who that is, what that is.
Yes, Salem's Lot.
Yes, indeed. And also, Frankenstein, the True Story, was the film, the miniseries that revived the career of David McCallum.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he was the one that played Dr. Henry Clavell. Now, interesting enough is the fact that the character of Henry Clavell is just a background character in Mary Shelley's novel. He is actually Victor Frankenstein's best friend, and he's only in a supporting thing. He's not a doctor or anything. He's just a friend of Henry of Victor Frankenstein's. But here later on, all these filmmakers started to grab onto the Henry Clavell character. And since then, they've, made him a major part of Frankenstein. I mean, even in the more recent version, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, Henry Clavell was a major part in it. But as I said, Clavell never appeared in the book. And amusingly enough, Mr. Highland, I told you this earlier. There was no Igor.
Yeah.
Igor did not exist. There was no assistant named Igor in the novel. And also, in Wales's Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein, the assistant was not named Igor. His name was Fritz.
Was what?
His name was Fritz.
Oh.
But it was in the fourth Universal Frankenstein film, Ghost of Frankenstein, that the character of Igor was created, and the actor that played the very first Igor was none other than Bela Lugosi. Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
But as much as that's interesting, we should get back to Frankenstein, the true story, and talk a little bit about this production.
Yeah.
Well, you just saw the film, so give us a little breakdown there, Mr. Highland.
I can't remember it all, but it involves.
Yeah, it's a lot to deal with. Well, I can help you a little bit. The thing is that what happens is that Victor Frankenstein's brother William dies, he drowns, and Victor blames himself, and he gets this idea that he wants to learn about how to bring people back to life, and he runs into a kindred spirit in the person of Dr. Henry Clavell, who has been experimenting for years. He had started out working with Dr. Palladori on it, but they had a disagreement on procedures. So Clavell went on his own, and he was using electricity, whereas Polidori was using biochemical technology and a little bit of mysticism, a mix of magic and science.
Yes, and at one point, he shows Victor this severed arm that he took from this patient that needed the arm severed because he was going to lose it anyway. So shows it as well. It falls out of it falls out of a bag at first, and then later he shows the same arm to him again, and it's moving on its own.
Yeah, that was some pretty good special effects too.
And thinking,
You have to
how did they do
admit.
that? I don't know how they did that, but they did a good job with that.
Oh yeah.
And then later there's this accident they hear of, and it's like, oh, they ask their housekeeper, or where they're staying, where about the accident. Oh, but the body's mangled, and And she says no, and they're in good shape.
There was like seven bodies, 7 young men who were killed.
They end up digging them up, and they take various piece parts from them, and they put together a body. And initially, Victor isn't pleased with the brain that they want to use, but
because it's a peasant. Because it was a stupid peasant.
And an accident happens with Dr. Henry, and he ends up dying. And
because he has a heart condition.
Yeah.
And he's been taking laudanum for it.
That's what that is. Okay.
Yeah. And the thing is that he runs out of his laudanum when he discovers the hand is, the hand's getting a little bit of a mind of its own, but it's also changing.
Yeah.
It's rotting in places, it's getting, pustules, and it's changing. And he realizes that something is wrong, and the process is reversing itself.
Yeah, but he doesn't write that on the notes fully.
Yeah, he says he gets as far as the processes are.
Yeah.
And
of course, Victor misinterprets that and goes ahead with the project and uses the doctor's brain instead, and
creates his atom.
Yeah, and at first everything's fine. I mean, this is not a monster that he brings to life. I mean, this Adam. I mean, he calls him that because
he's beautiful.
Yes. I mean, this is what's different from the other Frankenstein movies. There's no, he's not covered in sutures. There's no bolts sticking out of his head or neck. He doesn't have big, clumpy feet or a big bulbous head. He's not clumsy. I mean, this is different.
Yeah, totally different. And, I mean, Victor pretty much loves this creature. I mean, he starts teaching him, but, he's very careful on it. And, first words that the creature mutters is beautiful and that. The monster is actually, the creature, I should say, is done by, was masterfully portrayed by a young actor named Michael Sarrazin, who later on went for great things. But this was actually one of his first films.
Yeah, I remember seeing him in things. I just can't remember what.
Yeah, well, he's very he's memorable because he has those beautiful blue eyes and that. He's got that kind of face. I remember he later on, Hammer actually got him out for, or one of the studios. I don't know if it was Amagus or one of them, had him as Dr. Jekyll.
Oh.
And then he was also in a version of Portrait of Dorian Gray.
Oh.
As well. But anyways, yeah, so the creature, Victor's all happy, and then he starts noticing that the creature's having nightmares, and after these nightmares, he's finding these tumors appearing underneath his ears. And the creature starts changing. The forehead starts getting a little bit heavier, the jowls start getting fuller, and he starts losing his beauty. And he also starts getting temperamental. But I think that's more because of the changes in Victor and how he's treating him. He can sense something's wrong. And that Victor is treating him very coldly. Anyway, so yeah. And what ends up happening is eventually the creature, Victor has pulled away all the mirrors out of the laboratory, and he's locked himself in with the creature in the laboratory because he doesn't want the creature to go outside and scare people. And the creature finds a mirrored object and actually ends up seeing himself.
Yeah.
Okay, you remember?
Yeah, and then yes, I remember in the glass, and he tries to kill himself, and it doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, he starts stabbing himself, and all this purple blood comes out.
It doesn't make any sense why he can't kill himself. Why he can't be killed.
It's something with the process that it's made his body stronger. So he's he's huskier, he's stronger. But yeah, he tries to kill himself, and the end of part 1 is after he stabs himself, he gets frustrated and he goes and he runs out of the laboratory out onto the cliffs. Beautiful, beautiful shot.
Yeah.
Too. Beautiful location. And Victor's chasing after him, and Victor yells at him. The creature stops, and it looks Victor in the face, and Victor is indecisive about if he's going to say stop again. So the creature goes and jumps over the cliff. Into the water, and I mean, how far would you say that cliff was? That was a huge ass fucking cliff.
Yeah.
And then he ends up the end of the part 1. He's walking out of the water. He's on the beach, still alive. Okay, so that's part 1.
Yeah, and then he ends up with the blind man in the cabin.
Yeah, with the blind man's lovely daughter, Agatha.
Did the screenwriters object to this casting?
I don't
These
think
two?
so.
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah, they
wouldn't
did good
say
casting
so.
here.
Jane Seymour is not a bad casting choice. Not at all. It was amusing because a few years after this, she did Somewhere in Time with Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, a little bit different from the novel and from Wales's you know, Bride of Frankenstein thing, which is this actually comes not from the novel but from Bride of Frankenstein, the old blind man. But in Bride of Frankenstein, he didn't have kids. Actually, in the novel, they do have a blind farmer, and he has a daughter and a son, and the creature loves this family. I mean, he's living in the barn and he's looking through a crack into the house and watches the family. You know, the father plays the violin and that and stuff in the book. But anyways, yeah, totally different in, of course, the miniseries, though. The creature really becomes enamored of Agatha. But Agatha has a boyfriend, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And after they leave, they decide to sneak up on her father, and they don't realize that he's not alone. And they finally see Adam and what he looks like. And they get scared, and tries to attack the creature, and he gets killed, and Agatha gets
she runs out of the house.
She runs off. Yeah, she runs off and gets run over by a stagecoach.
Yep. Yeah. And the creature grabs her up and takes her back where he figures that he can get help. Except, of course, Victor isn't there, and someone else has taken over the place, which is our dear buddy, Mr. Dr. Polidori.
Yeah.
And Polidori realizes who's the brain, because the moment he introduces himself, the creature chuckles and says Polly-Dully. And so what ends up happening is Polidori goes and hypnotizes the creature and brings forward Henry Clavell's consciousness and talks to Henry. And Henry tells him that the process has reversed itself, he begs Polidori for help. And Polidori just tells him he can't help him. but he can actually, if he can get the help of Victor Frankenstein, he can finish the work. Of course, Dr. Polidori is not one to ask. Nope. He pretty much blackmails Victor into helping him. You remember that, Mr. Highland?
Yes, he shows up at his wedding.
Yeah, with the monster wearing a mask.
Yeah.
And says, "Oh, well, what do you want me to do? Should I let him off right here, or are you going to come and work with me?" And so they actually do come up with a success.
Yes, they actually
Polidori's method.
Yes, they do a much better job in creating Eve. Prima, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Except that because of Polidori's influence, Prima is evil as shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's a psycho bitch. I mean, remember the scene with the cat?
Yeah.
She's sitting there choking the damn cat. Yeah. That was something, though. Did you know that the opera scene in this film they actually took footage from another film to actually create it?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, the footage was from a 1943 version of Phantom of the Opera. It was actually let's see, footage of the Figaro opera singer receiving applause is actually a shot of Savannah Foster's curtain call from the 1943 version of the Phantom of the Opera. If you're wondering, I remembered that from IMDb, and I managed to grab it up. Oh, interesting. I mean, it's 1940. I remember the 1943 version of Phantom of the Opera. Very good.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
Oh yeah, good one.
I saw the others.
Oh yeah. Well, if you ever get a chance, watch it. It's a very good version.
Okay.
Of course, nothing beats, Lon Chaney's Phantom of the Opera.
Of course.
Anyways, so back to Prima. Polidori has, he has plans for Prima. He wants to get her into, use her to control rich people. Get her into a good marriage. And that so that he can enforce his power. That's pretty much how it is with Polidori. You know, he's the one that wants to be, the puppet master. Of course, what he didn't realize was the fact that by hypnotizing the creature, he had let the Jack-in-the-Box out of the box, and Henry Clavell starts coming forward more and more in the creature.
Yeah.
And he undoes Polidori's plan by breaking into this big party that they were having to introduce Prima to the aristocracy.
Yeah. And of course, it backfires because they try to kill the creature, and by burning the lab, and it burns and explodes, but it doesn't work because the creature shows up all burnt and decrepit looking, and all it wants is Prima.
Well, he wants Agatha. That's what he wants. Is he wants Agatha, but Agatha isn't there. It's this vicious monster that hates him. He thinks that he's inferior. And she starts attacking him, and there's one spot on her that hasn't really healed.
Yeah.
Remember that, Mr. Highland? Because they put like these little ribbons around her neck.
Yeah, there's that line on her neck. So when it's finally revealed, people realize, oh, there's something wrong about her, and so finally he gets her hands on her. But at first, this happened before or after, but the guards shoot him, but it doesn't do any good. He's throwing people left and right.
Yeah,
around.
He's throwing people left and right. Prima attacks him, and he rips the thing off of her neck and then starts twisting her head around.
Yeah.
And rips her head off.
Yeah.
Now
I was shocked when that happened. I'm watching this. I'm just.
Yeah, you didn't see that in 1976 on television. You didn't see someone ripping a person's head off.
I thought this was from 73.
Oh, yeah, 73. Yeah, sorry. I get mixed up. But anyways, yeah, 73. I mean, think about it. And then he drops the head in Polidori's lap.
Yeah.
And Mr. Polidori's quest for to be the master puppet master is over, and he tries to escape. He forces Victor and his wife Elizabeth to come with him. Elizabeth is pregnant, of course, and they're on a on a sea voyage with Doctor Who.
Yeah. They try
Tom
and get
Baker.
they try and get away from the Doctor at first, but from Polidori, but they didn't realize that he was on the boat until later.
Yeah. But then the creature shows up and he gets his revenge on Polidori because Polidori can't, what we didn't know about Polidori is that his hands were ruined.
Yeah.
So he wore these black gloves, and what was underneath the gloves was just these little skeleton hands. And so he couldn't defend himself, and the creature goes and hauls him up the main mast, and he gets blasted by an electrical charge. Lightning bolts hits him and toasts him.
Yeah.
And Victor tries to save Polidori, and he ends up falling and knocking himself out. And Elizabeth starts, because she's a religious nutball, she tries to talk down the creature, saying that it's an abomination and stuff, and that, Victor has, a real life here in her baby, and the creature kills her and leaves her up on deck while he goes and takes them to the North Pole. Which is amusing.
Yes. We both end up there together, and that's
it's
pretty.
That was an amazing scene, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't think that a television budget could afford what they had there, because that was just huge ass thing. But there's like this, what is it, a hill? A mountain outcropping out of the ice?
Yeah.
And that's where Victor finds the creature. And at this point, Clerval has totally taken over. Because the voice is out of Clerval at that point. And confrontation it's not a violent confrontation. Victor acknowledges that he had done wrong to the creature. And then he starts screaming at the creature, "What do you want? What do you want?" And it starts an avalanche. And so the creature and Victor end up dying actually you don't know if the creature's dead or what. But the entire side of the mountain comes down on them. And that's where it ends. So very, very much a very epic version of Frankenstein. I mean, you know, we wouldn't see another one until what was it, the 90s, when Mary Shelley's Frankenstein came out. Mr. Highland?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one I haven't seen.
You haven't seen it yet?
No.
You gotta see it. It's fantastic.
Okay.
Seriously. It was actually supposed to be the next in a series that Coppola was producing of the classic monsters, but Mary Shelley's Frankenstein didn't get the appeal that Coppola's Dracula got. So, Coppola didn't do the next film, which was going to be The Wolfman. So we had to wait for years for a Wolfman remake. And Coppola wasn't even involved with that one. But yeah, I mean, oh man, there are two versions of Frankenstein where they actually tell the story exactly as Mary Shelley, well, the closest to what Mary Shelley wrote. And that was the one that Coppola produced. And then there's a Swedish Frankenstein that they went by Mary Shelley's description of the monster and did their own version of it. And that one's an interesting one. You can find it on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
I think it's called Terror of Frankenstein. It's a Swedish one. The only other time we ever see a Frankenstein monster that looks like Mary Shelley's version of it was in Penny Dreadful. The Frankenstein monster in that looks exactly like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, the other one was pretty damn good too. The one from the 90s, that was pretty good. And it was interesting the way that they did the makeup on the monster. And they made the monster intelligent and stuff and talking and that. So, not bad. The only thing is they always seem to screw up in the fact that they always do a female monster in these movies. And the fact is, in Mary Shelley's novel, Dr. Frankenstein gives up. When he's just about ready to finish the female, he actually destroys her. And that's the reason why the monster kills Elizabeth. It's because of that. He had, Victor had promised him that he was going to have a companion. And Victor denied him that. So the monster took his revenge by taking away what Victor loved. Interesting, though.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah. So, Frankenstein: The True Story, fantastic production values.
Yes, I was quite impressed with it.
Yeah. Yeah, the locations were just incredible, and it was almost like what Hammer Studios wanted to do, but they didn't have the money to do. Was this kind of a sprawling horror film. Alrighty, so anyways, that's Frankenstein: The True Story. Anything else? Any closing words about the miniseries or that?
No, other than I enjoyed it, and I want to thank our listeners for listening, and tune in next time.
Oh, yeah, because next time...
No, it's a surprise. Let's not
no,
spoil it.
I'm not going to tell what we're going to be discussing, but I am going to be mentioning the fact that our next episode is the season finale.
Yeah.
And Mr. Highland's got a huge surprise for you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, does he! And yeah, I'm still waiting to. I still haven't watched the movie yet. I'll have to.
You've never seen this?
I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it, but I watched it in the movie theater when it came out, and that's it. After all these years.
Oh, okay, right.
So I've forgotten a lot of it. There's a few scenes that just really stick in my mind, royally stick into my mind. But yeah. So anyways, yeah, people, be ready for our season finale and all the fun of that.
Yes, it's going to be naughty.
Yeah, very naughty. Alrighty, so anyways, this is William Pattison, Alpha Wolf of the Wolf Pack, and of course the horror sex symbol, Mr. Christopher Highland.
Sid, good dog, rough.
Yeah. Saying, keep America strong, watch horror films, release the beast, and be ready for October.
Travel
speak international.